Welcome to Lykken on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lykken, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lykken on Lending. Now your host, David Lykken.
Folks, today we're going to be talking about Fannie Mae's AI governance and what it's about. We have a leading sponsor of our podcast. More than a leading sponsor of our podcast, this guy is a leader of the industry in creating solutions that you need to be paying attention to. And I'm not just saying that because they're an advertiser. You've got to listen to this interview that we're going to be doing today because it is one that I think is very important, especially to the future. Some of you are already dealing with it. Some of you are not even aware of it. It's very important, especially as you're going to learn in today's interview, why. Our guest today is Steve Butler. He is the CEO of True. He leads the company's growth strategy and enterprise expansion across the mortgage and financial services industry. He has a deep background in scaling B2B, SaaS, and fintech platforms. Steve brings relentless focus on execution, operational excellence, customer success. From sales to marketing to partnerships and business development and customer success, Steve's tech seller approach and customer-centric vision has been critical to True's continued expansion and success in the industry. I am a true believer in Steve's AI focus. He has decades of experience running in revenue organizations, building valuable tech companies. I could read Steve Butler's extensive bio, but I encourage you to get to know him by clicking on the LinkedIn profile that's in the show notes today, or you can just search Steve Butler on True AI. Without further ado, let's get into today's very important, very timely podcast having to do with Fannie Mae AI governance. Listeners, we're back with Steve Butler, and True AI is making a real difference in how lenders operate, reducing costs, causing loans to flow through their systems and get processed cheaper, faster, better. I love it. Steve, congratulations on the successes you're having. Love having you back here.
Thanks, David. Great to be here.
You've had really some pretty amazing successes in what you've been doing. For those, by the way, that don't know you, you are the True CEO. You're really leads the company in growth strategy, enterprise expansion across the mortgage industry and financial industry. You're doing a great job, and you have an extensive background and really having some successes, which we're going to cover in here. I'm really interested in getting into Fannie Mae's new AI governance framework. It goes into effect August 6th, so it's really timely that we have you on here. We're covering this. What's the biggest misconception you're hearing from leaders? And I'll share some of the ones I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, great question, David. Well, it's super interesting in that, lenders have had for decades, governance in place, right? And so they can support and survive, defend any audits, right, that are done. And they regularly get audited, of course, on their loans. And so the biggest misconception is we got that handled. We're already there. But what they're missing is that as vendors and themselves deploy more AI, generative AI in particular, that confidence needs to sort of be relooked at because those solutions bring a whole nother dimension to deterministic results. And, if you don't get the same results for every time you run that application, if the results can change, then you've got a governance issue. And so I think the business misconception is they have it handled. And I also think most of them don't really understand what it means. I mean, they're having difficult enough time to sort of understand what AI is all about. Now you're adding another layer, which is, okay, it's affecting your governance. And so I think those two issues and that's why we put out an educational piece, a content, a guide to help them figure this out.
I'm really excited about what you have published on this, but you touched on that you do this, you solve this. Just for those listeners that are listening to you for the first time, could you just real briefly explain how you solve for this?
Yeah, no, which certainly. So the issue is that generative AI is going to generate, probabilistic answers, right? It's going to make the best fit answer it can.
I love the word, and I want to stress the probabilistic versus deterministic because there's a big difference. We've covered that. We're going to put a link, listeners, to a previous podcast. This is really important that you understand this, listeners. If you're not getting the difference, you're missing a big, big piece as you're forming your AI strategies, as you're implementing solutions. You must make sure that they are deterministic.
Yeah. And, as they get better and better, they're putting out better accuracies. But the problem is if you put, a year from now, 2 years from now, you get audited, you go back in with the same prompt, right? And say, give me the answers, whether it be a data extraction or a chatbot response, whatever it might be, the answer is going to be different, possibly. So
Yes.
It's not deterministic. And what AI governance is all about is having deterministic, repeatable results. And so what we build from the ground up is the ability to give you always deterministic answers with our platform. What we've done, David, is we've combined a deterministic model that we built over the last 9 years, heavy machine learning, and a bunch of provable correctness kind of methods that we added. And we blended that with the frontier LLMs that we use so that we basically have machines validating machines. So now we're fully traceable. That's basically what's happened. Very different. I call it a third generation architecture because the first generations basically are not deterministic. Now we have a deterministic architecture. We're the only ones that have this kind of approach to solve AI governance.
Yeah, it's really, really, it may be a good idea for you to explain the Fannie Mae's AI governance was about, because we're talking about that. And again, some people may not be up on it. So explain that if you could, Steve.
Well, as it pertains to AI, you've always had to make sure that every data field that you've got, every document, every decision is grounded with a deterministic answer. So you have to have full traceability and full provability. So, because what happens is the data is what's used in decisioning. And we're starting to see lawsuits, by the way, showing up where borrowers felt like
that's a risk factor that wasn't there before as a result, because people are saying, prove how you came to this determination.
That's right.
Give us a
There was a
roadmap.
big case just got settled in Massachusetts for almost $3 million related to student loans. And there was a class of students that basically were biased against, and the vendor basically didn't have the governance in place to basically be able to prove, that the data, was the data itself. And so as, the data was repeatable. And so this is going to come heavy, class action, whatever you want to do is going to come heavy at the mortgage industry and for big numbers. And so we are really advising lenders to get their act together on traceability and provability.
I'll never forget one time my wife and I were on vacation, and then we were going through a hotel. We just happened to be staying at a real nice hotel, and we walked by this suite or there's room that, like, they have any conference, you walk by there, and I noticed as I said plaintiff bar, and they're how to sue the mortgage industry. Now, this was a number of years ago on other issues, but there's a whole, important that our listeners understand, there is a whole legal enterprise out there, lawyers that are looking for ways, and that's how they prosper. That's our business model, looking at how to sue lenders, and you've got to have this covered. And it's so important. Now, one of the things I'm really impressed about your guidelines, it really addresses some of the biggest issue, which is AI accuracy and its traceability. Can you explain the difference between why that is becoming so important? You've touched on it already, the class action lawsuits, or is there more to that we should go into?
No, other than, as you point out, lawyers that are litigious lawyers see AI as a huge enabler of them to sort of cause a lot of this problem. The legal community, there's sections of lawyers that basically they're looking for how do we find something that's ripe and fertile, right, for lawsuits that can be settled for, 6-7 figure kind of lawsuits. And AI is creating that because of the probabilistic answers, which lead to decisioning, and et cetera, et cetera. And so it's something that lenders have to get set to defend themselves against.
One of the ideas that you introduced is something called trust architecture. I love that term. You TM'd it. And what does that mean? And why do you believe lenders should start evaluating AI platforms through the lens of a trust architecture? Love that expression.
Well, I'm glad you like it, because really, to me, this is all about, can I trust the data will be my friend a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, when I might get sued, right? Or I might get audited. Can I trust that data is my friend? And it's my friend when it's the same data every time, no matter what when I run it, right? Same inputs should give me the same outputs. And so we built an architecture so that enables that. You can change the date, but if you give it the same inputs, you're going to get the same outputs, whether it be data or whatever other AI application you're running. And so we did that by integrating a deterministic model with these frontier LLM models, and they validate each other. And so you reduce the human in the loop requirement, and you basically make sure you've got full traceability and deterministic results. And so that's the key to what a trust architecture is all about. We built it from the ground up. I mean, and it leverages the model that we built for 9 years by running tens of millions of loans through it. It's very deterministic. So you take that and blend that with the frontier LLMs, Claude, et cetera, and you basically have a very, very powerful but very deterministic result.
So, Steve, if you're sitting with the CIO or COO seated at the mortgage lender today, what questions would you be asking every AI vendor before August 6th?
The most important question, and by the way, I got to tell you, we looked out and we see so little conversation going on about AI governance among vendors. They're so focused on building the great next big tech stack.
Yes.
Let's get the best AI out there. They're forgetting that enterprise AI has to have all these other features like traceability and deterministic results. Otherwise, to me, it's just going to get them in trouble down the road. So the first thing I want lenders to ask their vendors is, what are you doing about AI governance? What have you got in your system that means that if I gave the same result, same answer, same prompt a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm going to get the same answer? What have you done to ensure that? Do you have something like a trust architecture in place to do that? And what does it look like? Those are the key things. Otherwise, that lender is super exposed. They may get great results, but they probably will. There's a lot of good vendors out there. They'll get good results. But the fact of the matter is it could be a time bomb kind of waiting for them down the road if they can't ensure that there wasn't bias in the decisioning, for example, right? And borrowers that should have got loans didn't get loans, et cetera. And that's only going to come by being able to defend an audit, right? And defend a lawsuit. And so that's why we think this governance is so important.
Have you gotten any insights to what these audits are going to start looking like, Steve? Have you heard of any insights of what the lenders can anticipate?
Well, we poured through whatever literature has been put out by Fannie and Freddie, and they've put out some pretty good stuff. And what we do know is, they do their standard audit, but they add what are you doing on supporting governance, in terms of the framework and the guardrails that you've put around your AI to make sure it gives you the same answers every time. And so, we expect an audit, which, I haven't heard yet what actually has happened. I'm sure they've started to. Well, August 6th.
Planning it. I mean, they're going to be doing this, and they don't put out something. Yeah.
If they go by what they're saying, they're basically going to be asking lenders to support, the traceability and provability for all their data fields, right?
And they're going to be putting on files. They're going to be a random selection of files. They're going to give you a file, and they're going to say, okay, here's the thing. And they're looking for the ones that are the more complex of the decisions where there is risk. And listen, Fannie Mae is a counterparty. That means they share in the risk in the decisions that are being made. And so they have a very keen interest in what it is. This regulation did come out, or this new guideline did not come out because they're not at risk as well. They're feeling the pressure, and they see the trends in the plaintiff bar.
Yeah.
The legal industry that is suing letters. So it's really, really important that they focus on that. When someone's working with you, Steve, I'm assuming that we asked the question if you were sitting down with a letter, how much do you spend actually advising some of them, as every good vendor partner should? How are you doing that?
First of all, in our platform itself, we have what we call the data panel, which provides the traceability. So we show them that for every field that's in their system of record, we can defend it with a document, the bounding box on that document, everything. We can give you full traceability back. So we educate them on the importance of that and making sure that they can do that. I don't want the vendor to just kind of pick the best LLM solution and run amok. You got to have enterprise AI, which includes the support for AI governance, compliance. Compliance is going to become a very, very big issue in the whole AI world, as you know, David.
Yeah.
This is a big part of it.
Yeah. The best part is, what do they say? The best offense is a really strong defense, or best defense is a bigger, strong offense. In other words, is going into every one of those audits with the confidence that your system does it. And as you guys are implementing these or working with the lenders that you're working with, you're clearly giving them a point. Come on, bring it on. It's nothing like a good fight that you know you can win if you have to go into one. So it could as well. But one of the things, Steve, I really love about you and what you're doing, you are very much a forward thinker. If you're looking beyond August 6th, do you see this as a one-time compliance event, or does this represent a bigger shift in how lenders should be thinking about AI?
If you look at other industries, right, ultimately the chief compliance officer, right, they and the head of security, the CISO, they end up driving so much of decisions because that's where the huge risk is, right? And so I think we're going to see over time those folks taking greater control of what's happening, inside of lenders. I don't care if you're an IMB or a bank, you're going to see stronger and stronger compliance as a top priority item. And it should be at the board level, at the ownership level. It should be, because, you could lose big if you're not, careful. Now, David, the alternative is, and here's another thing I don't want to predict, where AI is supposed to be a cost saving, right? A cost saving, and it should be, something where you take a lot of cost out or you build significant efficiencies and productivity enhancements. Imagine a day where, because of the governance issue, you actually have to review everything by humans. The only way around not having full traceability by machine is to basically get full traceability by human. And so now you've got all of a sudden invested in LLMs, but I have to have my human team validate what's actually on the document so that I do have traceability then. And so the alternative is adding cost if you don't have a machine validating machine kind of solution.
And when you haven't taken the time to really get to know by a leader in the industry such as yourselves. Steve, I'm sitting and looking at this. I'm stuck on the trust architecture. That is brilliant. I understand for your staff, you came up with this. There's just so many things that the way your brain works and how you're designing this thing. Give us a little bit more of a background, how it is that you function. Because there is a difference. When you look at technology, it's built by people. And the nature of those people, the brilliance that those people have, makes all the difference in the world.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I just started thinking to myself, what we really are selling is trust. Because underwriters, and whether you're underwriting or selling a loan off, you're trusting the loan file is what it is, right? And so I really started thinking, we've got to figure out, we're basically selling trust. And that led to this idea of the trust architecture, which we built. But I want to just say that maybe because I'm an old guy and I've been doing this a lot of years, I had a really good set part of my career in which I sold compliance solutions, compliance platforms into the enterprise. And that became a real big success. And it ended up being a company that is probably doing somewhere, close to maybe $500 million to $1 billion in compliance solutions. And we pioneered that whole area. We pioneered that area. It's a company called ManageSoft. And so I'm taking those learnings and bringing it here. And it turned out that, and it was banks and financial services primarily, it turned out that the compliance issue ruled the day. And that was the big thing. And I think we're going to see that in AI. Yeah. I really believe that. AI is going to get commoditized. David, it's going to be a commodity, right? This is going to be a commodity. But what won't be a commodity is the fact that you've got to basically have compliance and governance in place. And that's the thinking here. Yeah.
And then how do we do that, maintain the relationship? That's one of the things I love about how you have blended your solution together with the ability to do that. As we wrap this up, we've been talking and focusing on Fannie Mae AI governance, and that is a very important topic. But one of the things I want to underscore is you help lenders get loans done faster through the system. So the speed by which tasks get done is dramatically reduced. But it's also, we're scrambling in our industry to reduce costs. Again, those that know you, they understand this, but could you explain how you do that again?
Yeah, no, totally. And by the way, this trust architecture comes completely in play again, because what happens, where's all the cost? All the cost is in the labor that's being used in every stage, often related to data, and getting the data to the point where you can trust it so you can use it down in underwriting, right? And downstream processes. And so much of this back and forth. I mean, the underwriter opens the loan file 4 or 5 times, not because they like the file, but because it's incomplete. The data's not ready. right? The idea is that you can reduce a ton of cost if you can get your trusted data faster and with less human. So again, machines doing a lot of the validation and it all happening almost in real time is really where you can start to save some real cost. Now underwriting opens the file maybe twice instead of 4 or 5 times, right? And so huge cost savings are there. And then the whole process compresses, right? I mean, I've had so many lenders tell me, Steve, nothing starts until we can trust the data, right? And so with True's MOS, you have a trusted data platform, right? That's the idea. And so that's where the cost savings really comes from.
Yeah. And you're having such great success doing that. For those that are talk to your customers that are using yours, again, we vet our vendors we have on our advertisers, and we want to have those with great reputation. Steve, you are really highly valued vendor for so many of the lenders that are wisely chosen your solution. Kudos to you and the success you're having.
I got one customer now that's north of 2,000 users on our MOS platform. Tremendous reduction of costs and obviously the AI governance.
Yeah. Which, as we're finding out today, it's growing real important. August 6th is a big date, Steve, and you're helping people go past that with confidence and an assurance that what you're doing can be trusted and it's reducing their costs. Great job. So good to catch up with you again. Congratulations on your success. I love your team. The people I work with within your team are just delightful, and encourage people. How can people reach out and get to learn more about?
I think our website is very informative, but also we're doing a lot on social with a lot of posts about traceability, and you can access the guides that we've put up. So I'd say between our social outreach and our website, you can read all about this and get a hold of us.
Yeah. I encourage people to do so interviews. And the only thing I say is we don't have you on enough. Please come back soon, so we can share some more of your brilliance with our audience. Thank
David,
you so much.
I'd love to, and I appreciate you carrying this ball as well about AI governance. I think it's going to really help the industry in general over a big issue.
Yeah, it is, and I'm honored to do so. Got to keep this industry healthy and strong. We're doing one of the most important jobs in America. That's putting people in homes and helping them stay in homes, and doing so lowering risk while we do it. Steve, thanks so much for coming on and being with me again, my friend.
Thanks again, David. Talk to you soon.
Looking forward to it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, this interview with Steve. A lot of good information here. Begin to share this podcast with others in your organization and make sure you have the bases covered. This podcast is made possible because of our sponsors, First Close, Title Ease, Angel AI, True.ai, who's the feature and focus of our interview today, Candid, as well as Mortgage Bankers Association of America, Lenders One, Modex, Redder, Mortgage Advisory Tools, and Fuel Inc. We appreciate you being here and listening to this podcast. Be sure to come back to the website. Check out all of our future podcasts. We appreciate you being here, and we value you as a listener. Thank you.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lykken on Lending.